Hi, everyone. We're just sorting out a few technical things. My name is Nicolas Sennequier. I'm from IMT in France. We had two very inspiring talks from Rick Levin and Simon Nelson. And what especially struck me is what Simon said. It's not just about MOOCs, it's about the internet. It's this digital change that is coming to us. And I think we're very lucky that this session was named Success with MOOCs. I think that's what we all are aiming at. And Simon also said that what he really cares about is learners first. And I think we should all be also aiming at this question. Maybe a few seconds more. So the first speaker is Rocael Hernández Rizzardini. He's from Galileo Universities in Guatemala, and he's the director and main researcher at the test department. Rock, do you want to say a few words before the slides come up?
Well, yeah. Let's wait a few seconds. I'll take it ready.
Rosanna and Rock, I don't know if either of okay.
Yeah, we're ready.
You haven't planned any live micro telephone demonstrations, so I hope it will run okay.
Yeah, sure, thank you. So today's talk will be about our experience on MicroMaster. My name is Rocael Hernández, and I am happy to be here and share some of our experience with the MicroMaster, which is a new program that edX has. So I'm gonna give you some basic background information about what we are doing, but the title of the talk is towards full engagement for open online education. And we'll see some practical examples on that. So first of all, Galileo University is a university that has about 40 years old. It's in Guatemala. I'm gonna show you a little bit more about Guatemala in a few slides. And now we are also part of EDX as well. So about Galileo University, we have about 35,000 students in our campuses. We have about 50 centers across the whole country. And the main focus or the core area of knowledge in the university is technology. We can say a little bit of computer science, but in general technology. But as well, we have a wide variety of educational programs to serve the society in general. Okay, so where's Guatemala? Guatemala is a small country. So it's the United States, and then come Mexico, and then come Guatemala. So because not so many people know where is Guatemala, but it's a nice city. This is Guatemala City, where the main campus actually is. It's a large city or mid-sized city, 3 million people, more or less. And also we have some nice places in Guatemala, like Antigua Guatemala, with national heritage. And also I wanted to show you this small this picture, because this is one of the most beautiful lakes in the world. But what is really interesting is that I was in the middle of the lake in the boat, and it happens that the volcano actually exploded. So it was really interesting. So I wanted to show you. But going back to real business, and also we have a multicultural nation. We have mainly 4 ethnics in the whole country, over 22 languages. So it's kind of a lot of contrast in the country. So going back, In Galileo University, we were, let's say, early adopters of MOOCs. We have been doing online learning for about 15, 18 years. And early in 2012, we decided to deploy our first MOOCs. And actually, we launched the very first MOOC platform in Latin America, which is called Telescopio, still is, but now we are focusing our efforts for EDX platform and leaving Telescopio as a repository of the former courses that we actually developed. The first MOOC that we developed for Telescopio was an iOS app development, and we have also deployed over 15 courses in different topics like education, marketing, healthcare, technology, and so on and so forth. And over 150,000 learners, mostly from Spanish-speaking countries. And now that we are in edX, we have 2 MicroMasters. One is for Android development, which is a MicroMaster in English. And also we have another MicroMaster for educational technology, which is in Spanish. So far in edX, we have about 12 MOOCs deployed. And so far, with all of our MOOCs initiative, we have reached about 250,000 learners worldwide. So that's a little bit about Galileo. And going down to the specific MicroMaster, just to give you some idea of what is it about. The MicroMaster basically gives you the necessary knowledge and expertise to become a professional Android developer. And actually, it prepares you to be part or to take the official Android certification from Google, actually. And the MicroMaster is compounded by 5 courses. The first course is Java Fundamentals for Android development. Then it comes the Android app development for beginners. Then it has a more advanced course about Android app development. And then also has some another course for business models, when you actually build an app and so on and so forth. And finally, you have a capstone project. So in a nutshell, we have developed several things around the MicroMaster and each one of the MOOCs. To highlight some of them, and I will show you some samples in a few slides. The first one is that we have created a learning path that actually has proven to help a lot the learners to actually be able to consume all the content that we have produced. So I'm going to show you in a few slides some samples. Also, everything is about learning by doing, which means in this MicroMaster about Android development, it's about building apps. So if you take the whole MicroMaster, you will end up with a portfolio of about 10 apps that you have developed, including the final app that you do with the capstone project. So also we have videos, and we use several tools, external tools, to actually be able to easily test and try and get code and so on and so forth, like Codeboard and GitHub. Also, something that has worked quite well is that we have a welcome kit in each one of the courses for the learners. And also for the verified tracks, we have personalized mentoring for learners as well. Which means basically that the learners can get together with tutors for one-on-one sessions or for group sessions as well for the verified track. So this is an example of the learning path. So basically, it is an introduction for the learner on what's the content that he will be consuming for a given lesson in the MOOC, and has proven to be very well because it gives you a snapshot of what's in there for them. Also, we have different type of content. So like you can see, we have handwritten. Also, we have standard presentations. And the most important part in this kind of MOOC is to have a screencast. So we have screencast. The professor actually code the different apps. And the learner is capable of following the whole process, and also has access to the code base for building the example app that they are doing. So now, with this basic information, Now, besides of building a MicroMaster, we decided that we wanted to try different things. And what we call a full engagement educational framework, which underlies on the concept that learning happens before, during, and way after the course happens. So I'm going to give you some examples, but also I want to address some general examples like the previous keynote speakers we had the opportunity to hear, that it's not only about the courses on being online, but it's also about the transformation that the connectivity and the access to devices and so on and so forth is bringing to the higher education. For instance, several studies indicate that about 70% of the real learning happens when you are actually applying. Of course, we all know that. And of course, that usually happens if we are in the higher education industry. That usually happens in the job. So before going into the specific framework and show you some of the results that we have, let us think about a couple of examples that I wanted to show. First, most of you are aware or have used Spotify, but if we go back to the history of Spotify or how the whole industry has changed, the music industry has changed, we can remember that at some point in time we have the long plays and the cassettes, and then they move it to CDs, and then they move it to MP3. And MP3 was a big change because it actually was the real way to have digital music and distribute it. And then it came Napster. Napster was a sharing platform, illegal, but anyways, everybody has used it. But anyways, and many startups happen in the time until now. Basically, Spotify is one of the dominant platforms in the world, and it has changed the whole industry itself. Let's talk about other example about Netflix. If we remember how Netflix started, they began being a distribution of rental DVDs company. And they were doing quite well for quite a while until they really decided to transform themselves into an online digital distribution channel. And then they started to actually produce their own series or movies or content. Actually, last year, I was the CEO of Netflix said that the aim for them is to provide 50% of their content will be produced by them. And this is really interesting, because if we analyze, it's not only about that they have new content, it's not only about that it is available online, but also is transforming the way the industry has been for quite a while. So for instance, if you think about traditional cable networks, such as HBO, they have great programs. So for instance, if you think about them, they have, for instance, Game of Thrones, or if you go some years before, they had The Sopranos and so on and so forth. So really great content. But they face, and they still face, a great limitation. And the great limitation is that as a cable network, they just have one prime time per week, mainly. Let's say prime time. It could be, for instance, Sunday, 9 p.m. That's the prime time. And there, at that time, only one show can broadcast, only one. So they may have the resources, they may have really good ideas or concepts for series, but they just have one prime time. Of course, they have multiple schedules and so on, but just one prime time. And what happens now that you have Netflix? There's no need for a prime time, or the prime time you put it yourself. I mean, you consume the content whenever you want. So that's a real transformation on the business model underlying. And this is something that actually is what we believe is also happening in education, because it's not only about, if we think about MOOCs, it's pretty much what we have been doing for quite a while, with some enhanced technology, but pretty much it. We tape the professor, we put the lessons together, and so on and so forth, and then broadcast. And then hundreds of thousands of learners consume the content, and somewhat they interact. But we believe that we have to go a step further and start to create something different or more innovative. And one of the areas that we are currently, let's say, experimenting is to create more engaging experience for learners. And if we go to see what is engagement in general, is when you actually are passionate about something. But also there are ways to create engaging experiences for people in general. So the experts say that the most engaging experiences that you can share with people are those that are, for instance, that give you something that makes you smarter or looks out for your interest, or is convenient, or gives you something to talk about. So we decided that we'll focus on creating engaging experiences, which happens at a lower level before they engage into the course itself. Because one of the main issues with MOOCs is that about 80% or maybe 90% never do anything at all. So we are losing a lot of learners or enrolled learners because we don't do actually anything for them. So we decided that we will create engaging experience for them. So the component of our framework mainly is to create an online community. An online community will allow us to be interacting with learners before they actually get into the MOOC or the MicroMaster, and way after they finish the MicroMaster. And that's the real power, or that's the real transformation that may happen in education or in higher education. So, in a nutshell, we have a MicroMaster. In this case, in this example, is for Android development. But alongside the MicroMaster, we have an online community. And within the online community, we provide content for creating engaging experiences. But also, we are providing tools for actually nurturing the community and growing an online community that happens outside of the MOOC. So, one of the components of the community is to have a blog or a way to publish the engaging experiences, distribute all this engaging content through the networks and through all the learners. And of course, when we go back to the MOOCs, we execute a lot of tailored communication with the learners as well. So basically, we are besides producing the MOOC, we are producing edutainment content to create engaging experiences and sharing through social media. So I'll show you what we are talking about and also some results. So, for instance, this is one of the main page of the community, and we publish in the community articles, trending topics, interviews, infographics, resources, even tutorials. Even part of the MOOC itself is also published in the community website, because this helps us to attract more people and to create community. So, what is high-value content, or what is how we create a really engaging experience for someone who is interested on Android? Because at least what we know from learners, we have thousands of learners enrolled in our MicroMaster, but not all of them are active. But we know that because they register into the MicroMaster, we know that they are interested in Android. So we provide them engaging experiences around that topic. One example can be, for instance, did you know that Android is close to be the most used operating system in the world, surpassing Windows? So that's the kind of engaging experiences that we create. Also, why you should become a professional Android developer. So did you know that if you become an Android developer in a first world country, you can earn up around 100K euros or dollars per year? And also we create a specialized content as well, which is not for education, but it's for information. So what's the difference with Android NDK and SDK? We also create not only articles, but also we create infographics and also videos as well. Other type of examples. So this is the kind of content, and also we not only distribute it through our own website, but also through the networks, which actually has worked quite well. So here is the process that we are following in our engagement framework. First of all, we have the community at the bottom, which is the main area that we are pushing forward the whole program. And then we have this second layer where we are creating high-value content for engaging learners or people who is interested in this. So we move from having a potential learner who has not enrolled yet into the MicroMaster. Then we help them, or we move people from just being a potential learner into actually enrolling in the course. And once they have enrolled, we are able to move non-active learners into more active learners and even more active learners. So we have low activity learners, we have active learners, and we are able to move them from low activity to more active learner. And at some point in time, they are able to complete the course. But what is more important is that we maintain a long-term relation with the learner through a community. So what we're doing to do that, from the point of view creating engagement, we are mainly producing about 10 to 15 publications in the blog per week, and so far it's working quite well. We have about a base reader of about 10,000 learners or interested people reading our material, which is not, again, it's not about education, it's about engagement. Also, we are distributing that content through the social networks, so we measure if people are doing likes or shares or what in the social space, what's happening with this content. And so far, we are averaging, actually it's a weekly average of 10,000 shares, likes, comments, clicks, and so on, so forth, or whatever. And we are reaching about 50,000 viewers per week and about 200,000 viewers per week in the peak when we have a hot topic that people is really interested in and so on. And also, like I mentioned, within the people who is registered in the MicroMaster, we are targeting communication for different level of learners, for those who are not active at all, or for those who has a very low activity, or for those who has medium or let's say high activity. So different kind of messages we articulate to communicate with them. So again, this is the framework, and we have been able to not only have people who enroll to the course as any other MOOC, and have, of course, active learners, but also be able to move people who is doing nothing to actually do something a little bit more, and then bring them to actually do more. So to give you an example of the results, we have an average of active learners of about 20% of the population per month, and about the half of them are mid to high level of activity, and the other ones are low activity, or they are moving from doing almost anything to do actually a little bit more. And about 40% of enrolled learners keep engaged with the content. So it's like being able to hook people, keep them thinking about Android, interested about Android, while at the same time you have the MicroMaster, and at some point in time they start to actually do something. So some of the conclusions that we have had so far with this experience is that it has worked quite well to create a long-lasting relation with learners. Even if they register but they do not do anything from the learning perspective, we keep them as in a communication with that relation. And also, like I said, we have been able to move inactive learners to more active learning scenario. And what we are working right now is, which is the second part, is to actually open up all of our forum tools. So all discussions on the course, and furthermore, discussions that are not related to the course but are related to the topic itself, will be performed on the community website as well. And also we are opening several tutorials about, just to give you a rough example, about 20% of our MOOC content will be available for free on the website, more or less. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roc. We have time for a few questions.
Hi, I'm Ricky from the University of Queensland, Australia. According to your experience, what are some best practices adopted to enhance engagement and motivation of learners? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So what's the best ways to increase engagement and motivation of learners? That's the question, right? Well, like I said, we see it as two levels. You can be engaged with the topic itself, which is what we are creating, which will lead you to be engaged with the course itself. Because motivation is intrinsic, usually. But creating engaging experiences has shown us that we can keep people hooked if they are really interested on the topic, but maybe they are not ready to start. Because several studies have shown that learners enroll into the MOOC, but they are not ready to start for several reasons. So for instance, they may not have enough time, they don't have support from the job, and so on and so forth, many reasons. But they have expressed that they are interested in the topic. So what we have seen is that if we keep them hooked, engaged in the topic itself, not learning, but in the topic itself, we have been able to move people or activate people from doing nothing to do more. Well, basically, like I said, we share with them engaging content that creates engaging experiences, and by doing that, people get motivated by themselves. That's what we are seeing right now. Yeah.
More questions? Well, we are a bit late, so I suggest maybe 2 or 3 questions asked at the same time, and then Roc will choose how he answers.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. My name is Lisa. I'm from MIT over in the United States. I'm wondering how you guys consider, or is it a consideration at all, the actual upgrading and the purchase of a certificate into the MicroMaster, since you have to buy the certificate? So are you guys we've been looking a lot at differentiated content based on whether or not you've paid into certificate cohort or not. Are you considering that at all, or are you just really focusing on engagement and not?
Well, that's a great question. What we are doing right now is that we have seen that you have to create a differentiated path, and for people, they have to be able to see that there is difference between verified track and audit track, basically. So after a few different tests that we run lately, we decided that we will, about 30 to 40% of the content is not fully necessary, and we will put behind, how do you say, a lock, a visual lock. So you'll say, if you are in the verified track, you will have access to that. So the way to show to learners is that they see all the content, but when they go to the log part, they will see only a log, and it will say that it's only for verified track. Yeah, that's it.
Rock, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
So let me welcome Rosanna De Rosa. She's a professor at University of Naples, Federico II, you say?
Sorry?
University Federico
Secondo,
II?
yes.
Secondo, thank you. And you'll talk about the EMA project.
Right, thank you. I thank you also to Rock because his presentation is very much aligned with my experience with Emma. And, oh, sorry, I have to change the presentation. Which one? No, it's this one. No, it's not this one. This. Let's see. Yes. So I had the chance to be the coordinator of the EMA project. The EMA project was a European-funded project aiming at creating a platform to accommodate cultural diversity. So we have looked at our experience from the point of view of technological development and of try to find some results about what works better and what works worse. So we are trying to create a kind of research experience developing a complex methodology of analysis. We try to answer to this, of course, obvious question: what factors impact on MOOC students' behavior in a MOOC platform where you have to accommodate such a diversity in content, provider, languages, pedagogical approaches. So what are the factors works better? So what we did was first to create a complex methodology using learning analytics dashboard available in real time both for teacher and students, creating a social survey methodology based on first profiling the student via registration form, then applying registration questionnaire, and then a MOOC level questionnaire to have a deep focus inside any kind of MOOC hosted on our platform, and finally an exit questionnaire. So we have some interesting result, but this result was quite, strange to us because we were trying to make sense of our experience, and the result seems to go further from our objective. So what was our experience with learning analytics? We first clustered the experience, the learners in 4 clusters, depending on their interaction with platform content, learners, peers, etc. And the cluster shows that you can see that contributors and actives were about 25% at 12%. So not very high, but it's not so bad. Then we try to look the percentage of these clusters in different MOOCs. And what we have discovered? We have discovered, for example, that there is a specific relationship among duration, length of MOOC, and performance. So if it's true that short MOOCs perform better, it's also true that longer MOOCs do not perform worse. So this was quite, we need to review the literatures because the duration is not a determinant. Then what we did more, we focused on each MOOC, and here your results. You can see the contributors and the active in different MOOCs. Okay, it's not enough. This does not explain our data. So again, short MOOCs perform worse than longer MOOCs, so no data. And there is also no correlation, statistical correlation among the two data. Okay, let's look at pedagogy. Probably the pedagogy, different style of teaching can influence the learner behavior. So we have crossed data of clusters of our participants to the kind of model they apply, teacher apply in their MOOCs. What we have discovered? We have discovered that X-MOOCs sometimes perform better than C-MOOCs. Oh, again, the pedagogy is not a determinant. So what's, we used to read that literature, and it was that, seems that C-MOOCs was the better model to apply to any kind of student. But some C-MOOCs offered by really good teacher were failed. Again, here you can see time spent for some MOOCs. For example, this was one of the successful one, adolescent brain, offered by Open University of Netherlands. And you can see that time spent is really, is very interesting because some lessons were more engaged than others. But the number of interaction was failing after the lesson 3. Okay, the same happened for different MOOCs. So what we have discovered, that probably also the lesson engagement is not a determinant. Okay, at this point we ask ourselves, probably we need to know more about who our learners are, because we are getting learners from all over the world. Most are Italian, but some other are not, so let's see. And this probably explains part of the story. 60% are women. They follow in the cluster of 46, the medium high level class of age, and most of them are employees or teacher, just teacher. So we are facing with a class of people which suffer of some social recognition problem, at least in Italy. They are often, at least in Italy, because most of them come from Italy, not engaged with technology, and they need more support. What are our findings about a survey application? We asked to these people what they were expectation. They were expected more interaction with teacher, more interaction with learners, more interaction with peers. They appreciated a lot what the platform was offering, but this was, again, not a good explanation, because 91% of them, they were learning, they think the learning experience was enjoyable. 92% that the course was well organized and so on. So no, task assignment was right, were appropriate. Video was good in length, it was good everything. So what? Why they perform so strangely? And again, we tried to get more answer from the exit survey. Okay, 73% they expected feedback. Okay, this was about interaction, sorry. The blog was useful, personalization feature either, etc. We have demonstrated that learning analytics demonstrated that individual length, pedagogy, lesson engagement are not determinant, showing the same declining behavior learning participation. Expectation questionnaire was about learned expectation with teacher and peers were high. Survey shows that learners are satisfied with the interaction. So is there other factors influencing the behavior of learners? So at this point we change our mind. Okay, let's ask to the people who has completed the MOOC what factors they evaluated most relevant in their experience. And we discovered something very interesting. You can see the course design, the teacher presence, the topic, and the certificate among a branch of other factors were evaluated the same. You can see 30, 31, 39, 31. So these 4 factors was considered having the same value, the same weight. So the next question is there one that weighted more? Yes, of course, it's the topic, but this is obvious. The topic is obvious. You can show that interest in the topic is the first, it's the first motivation to approach the MOOC. And you can see that the second point was the certificate. By sex, women, of course, and by age. Here it's interesting that you can see with the age, the landscape is a little bit different, and the more they become older, the more they need something different than just a topic. They need the teacher presence. So, what we did more? So we tried to understand how to explain the perseverance of learning, keep going in MOOC, and we discovered and we asked to at MOOC level to order the 4 cluster of the 4 kind of factors in order of relevance. And we discovered, because they have the same weight, that any different MOOC had its own pattern. So our idea is that there is not a formal receipt, but there is a 4 main components that weight similar, but they can have a different relevance in any type of MOOC. Let's take only one example that explains this kind of pattern. And it's interesting because it matches exactly the same holistic approach that Claude has presented before. I have the case, lots of slides if you want, but I want to show you only something interesting. Here, this is the model of the pedagogical approach used by the professor teaching coding in your classroom now that was very successful. And I tried to, to modelize what he did because he was not aware. He was just teaching coding. But he was following the needs of learners, starting from a needs analysis, and then from the needs analysis construct his own model. So he used to create connective space where the community was created. He created a constructive space where was the space for practicing coding, using Scratch, for example, using some other kind of software, Codeway, and so on. And he was able to manage both the collective aspect of his MOOC and the individual, supporting at the same time, both in real time, face-to-face, online, and in an asynchronous way, the needs of the community. And the community was built with the support of social media, and all this ecosystem of learning was about creating a strong support to motivate it. The teacher who was falling down, was later in keep going, and to support this community. And this kind of MOOC was considered one of the best by the Class Central, became a pledge of the European Commission for the Code Week, and he had a reach of 100 students pupils in the school. So 2,000 teachers involved in the MOOC, and 100,000 school pupils in the school, because the scaling up and down of the process was able to reach the classroom. So I have lots of other data, but I think it's enough. So thank you.
Thank you, Rosanna. Questions?
really interesting that you mentioned you had some findings which are different from what we might assume about the relationship between length and performance. And then what you were saying about the particular audience that you were looking at, women who might not have other means of being maybe professionally recognized. Do you think, I think you were saying that perhaps there is, do you think there's an explicit relationship between how these learners are behaving on courses versus how learners who already have some kind of degree or other means of professional recognition might behave in courses?
This was one of the first motivation. Have a certification for professional motivation, but we know that a lots of offering for teachers available, and they failed. So why, if you just need a certificate, you prefer to be involved in such a engaging activity? Because the MOOC was a 13-week formal duration, but it never ended. Never. So the MOOC is still there, still open, and the community is still running. And the teacher now is moved to second round of MOOC with a high-level preparation on coding. So it's creating your app in the classroom right now. It's the second round of high-level MOOC. So what I want to say now is, to me, I'm a social scientist. This data come from learning analytics are interesting, but I believe we need an approach from social science research. We need a theory, and we need a more demographic on our learner, because it's really important to know who they are and what their needs. Otherwise, we are just wasting our time.
Hi. It was really, really interesting, and I've got further information about the 4 topics. I understand the presence of the teacher, the interest of the topic, but how did you motivate the students? What did you put in place? And what about the design for the engagement?
First of all, I was not the teacher of this book. The teacher was a university teacher. So this is a very important point, because the school teacher recognize in their own teacher a kind of high status teaching the kind of MOOC. So they felt fall in love with the teacher, because they felt, oh, why this university teacher is giving attention for free all this time to us to improve our professional skills. I want to show you something interesting, because there was so much here. We did a sentiment analysis on the community on Facebook, a very large community, still ongoing, and so on. So, and grazie, you can understand what this means. Is thank you, and they were thank again, because the support was night and day, very strong, very strong. As a community of technicians, as coordinator, as partner, we were all involved in the process, because we were aware that this model was something new, and we call this model HMOOC, which is a kind of hybrid and at the same time holistic approach to learner and to teaching. So the first point to motivate was the motivation of a teacher in teaching. This was a strong key to succeed.
Another question?
Okay.
I have one. Were you able to survey people who did not complete a MOOC for their motivation?
No, people who did not complete, they just go out of the platform, because they used not to be able to be reached by our notification email, you know. So, we have some information, because we have the mini survey MOOC questionnaire, and they used to of course, to say, okay, we have no time, or it's too much engaging, or it's too much for me, I have not the experience. So, but these are people which used to be disconnected from the groups of others. And so they felt alone and not able to react to the stimulus coming from the MOOC.
No more
Okay.
questions? Let's thank again both our
Thank you.
speakers.
Thank you.